Buju Ojua Mashkode Bujike Indijnakazki Gudo Dem Aninishaabe Aki. Hello and welcome to the Kiskinamakawan web series. On today's episode, we are joined by Diane Maytwayashing at the Petraforms here in Whiteshell Provincial Park to learn about the Petraforms, their stories, the teachings, and the significance they have on the Aninishaabe people.
Buju Anin, Ozawa Gizuguku, Nadishnakas, Migazi Dudem. My name is Yellow Sun Woman, and I'm from the Bald Eagle clan. My other name is Diane Maytwayashing. And I just want to explain this area here. This is the entrance when we're coming into the area here. And so people put their offerings here for, the ancestors, the spirits, and the little people of the area. Well, I guess it all started when my friend had brought me out here, and he said, I want to take you to this really special place. And I was going through a dark period of my life and just feeling like I've lost my life purpose. I didn't know of this place, so that was over 20 years ago, maybe 22 years. So he brought me out here, and he took me around the area. And he told me about the petroforms and gave me these teachings, like we spent the whole day here. And he said that he got these teachings from the late Peter O'Cheese, and that was, his elder. I decided to come here and fast. So after that, I was fasting here every year for 11 years. From that, I, learned more about the area and acquired more wisdom of the area. And then about 10 years ago, I decided to move out here to help protect the area. And then shortly after that, we had a women's gathering for 3 years. And I decided to bring the women out here, give them teachings of the petroforms. And they suggested, why don't you give teachings to schools, families, interested people, being more formal about these tours began probably, I'm going to say, 6-7 years ago. So I grew as well, and with the knowledge, it becomes more clear in how I present it. So it just didn't happen where magical romantic story where like prominent elder said, you're going to learn about this area, I'm going to bring you out here. It wasn't like that. I was in a place of despair, in deep despair. And he said, no, you can't be feeling that way, I'm going to take you somewhere. So I guess in a way this place saved my life. And so I thought, in turn, I'm going to protect this place, and maybe it could help others learn about the area and learn their own culture and the life-giving energy that this place gives to people when they learn about it and the teachings here. It's so empowering and enriching in my life, and it is for everyone that walks through here. It's never been a negative experience for anyone. It's always been so empowering and enriching for not just Indigenous people, but for all nations of people that come here. And it's not me, it's the area. The real name of this whole area is called Manidoo-Abi, which means where the spirit sits. This place is such a sacred place. If you're walking on here, just coming here, it's like you're stepping into a different world, because there's also the energy here of our ancestors and the star nations. They are the star nations. The petroforms are a reflection of the star constellations. Some of the petroforms have been restored, and so many of them have been moved. And there are a few authentic ones, and I will show you which ones they are. But so as you go further up, to the World Heritage Site, and you see the petroforms there. So those ones are protected because it's a World Heritage Site. This is almost like the doorway to the spirit world, or some kind of portal to the spirit world. And I believe it is. that it is some kind of portal to the spirit world. Knowledge keepers and elders have said that the petroforms were put together by the help of the star nations, because there are some boulders that you see, for instance, the stone here, and all these like boulders. There was question of how did they put them together? How did they bring these big boulders in? You know, when they didn't have the equipment, machinery, and so you know the knowledge keepers and elders, you know, they said that it was from the help of you know, the star nations, and actually it was the star nations who guided the people to put the petroforms in their shapes and to continue on with those teachings. They say that this area is actually, the petroforms are actually not just the ones here, but the ones in the forest and, you know, all the way up to Pamachiaki are life instructions on how we were to live here on earth, because we were to live in balance with the ecosystem. And it was our agreement, if we were going to live here on earth, that we were to follow these instructions and to follow a clan system and the ecosystem, a system that works in balance with the earth and not destroy the earth. This area was created by our ancestors, you know, hundreds of years ago. And they say that the instructions came from the star nations, and also probably dreams and ceremonies. There was a time when our people were, before colonization, they were highly intuitive, spiritual people. And of course, you know, they weren't disrupted by the colonial thoughts from, you know, from the settlers and from the churches. So the people were very clear, and they knew that they knew what they needed to do. So they set up the petroforms, and all the petroforms give a teaching of the life instructions on how we are to live here on earth in a ecological and spiritual manner. Even though we are in physical form, we still need to have we still need to know that we are also spirits in physical form, and to live in balance and in harmony with the earth and with the ecosystem and all the other beings that live here on earth. So these petroforms would give those teachings. And for me, like, you know, the petroforms, like especially this one here, they're like, they have spirit, you know. And I think before it snows, you know, we may come out here and feast them. Yeah. And that because I always like I don't know, to me, like some of these petroforms, they feel like they're alive. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like they have an energy, you know. The turtle formations, because we have so many teachings. The turtle is actually our living calendar timekeeper. They are the ones that I say carry the scrolls on their back of the 13 moons. So in 1 year, which is 4 seasons, okay, for instance, in the spring we have the spring equinox. That is our new year, not January 1st. Because the spring is our new year, because it's new beginnings and everything comes back to life. Like everything went to sleep and comes back to life. And then in the summer, we have the summer solstice. And then the fall, we have the fall equinox. Everything goes back to sleep. And then we have the winter solstice. So there are 2 solstices and 2 equinoxes in 1 year, which is 13 months. Turtle is our calendar. And on the top of the turtle shell are the 13 plates. And the 13 plates represent the 13 moons in 1 year. So if you find a turtle in the area here, like on the road, in Manitoba, you will see that it has 13 plates, and it's part of nature. And then around the 13 plates are 28 platelets, which represents every 28 days there will be a full moon. So that's why the turtle is our living calendar. And each full moon, there is a teaching. Like this recent moon that we had, the recent full moon, was called freezing moon. So everything froze up. So if you notice, the frost came. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of warming up now because it usually does around new moon, because new moon is in the middle, in between the full moons. The calendar that people are using today, I don't use that calendar. I stopped using it almost 10 years ago, the Gregorian calendar. So that calendar was put together by Pope Gregorian, and so it's a Christian calendar, and so I stopped using that calendar, and I started using the Earth nature calendar, which is the 13 moons. There's been so much movement of the petroforms. There's also petroforms that no longer exist because it's not a protected site. It's just freely open to public. There isn't anyone walking around here, making sure that everything's intact, or people are not stepping or jumping on the petroforms or moving them around is negative. But I think the positive thing, that my understanding of the area has deepened. And I think as I get older and coming out here more often, I learn more about the area, and it has much more meaning. I mean, after I leave from here, I'll go home and something else will come to me about the area or of one of the petroforms. That's how more knowledge comes. I mean, the more that if anyone comes here and they walk around the area, of course, they're going to acquire more and more knowledge. I mean, after I leave here and you come back, you walk around, something will come to you about the area. And so that's how amazing this place is. It's a place of knowledge. It's like our natural university, but it's like our university is life, because life is our teacher. But anyways, this is the fish. One of the things that I teach about the fish is that they are part of the water nation. They have a world of their own. I shouldn't say of their own, but they have a whole universe. And that world, the water world, just as important, or maybe most important than the physical world here. Even on the land, everything is made of water, and everything needs water. We have many teachings, but one of my favorite is that, or one of the ones that I guess important to know, is that these serpent beings do exist, and they live in the deepest parts of the water. And if you go to the West Coast, I guess, the mainstream people would call them Ogopogo. And then if you go to Scotland, they call them Loch Ness. But the West Coast people have a name, the indigenous people, and teachings of, and most likely songs of these serpent beings. And that they, have been sightings of these serpent beings. And they say that these beings, as well, they live in the earth, and of course the deepest parts of the water. This one here represents that story, and someone had told me that there is this large serpent woman that lives in the deepest parts of the water, and she protects the water. And also these beings, they were star nations, and they came to live here, and they became three-dimensional, because any being that lives here on Earth has to be three-dimensional. We're one of the first creatures to live here on the Earth, and they made their ways through the earth, and so those, like the waterways, were made by these serpents, and because they were so huge. Yeah. So if you see rivers, and they're like, yeah,
That was from one of the big serpent beings.
from the serpent beings, yes. And they say that they They're one of the first beings here. The way to protect this place, it has to be our people. And I know we have many distractions. People have jobs and things we got to do. To me, if I had it my way, I would have my children out here every day. Like this is like a school. It's like never ending learning here, you know, at the site here, bringing a school here one day out of the year. To me, that's really not enough. I mean, come here, every season and learn something new because there's so much to learn here. And I've seen the children so happy here, and the teachers too, just to come out here and learn about these petroforms. So this petroform, yeah, it's a woman giving birth. One of the important teachings about this petroform is that the women are the gateway from the spirit world to the physical world. And then there was a time when the people would help that process of that spirit that was coming from the spirit world into the physical world through the woman. And so they would sing, and they would sing and help that process by helping that woman. And so it would be, the mothers and the grandmothers, the women of tribe of the village. They'd come together and they would nurture that woman carrying that life, because that it was important that that life that was coming from the spirit world come in a really good way for each of those beings that were born into this world. We're all born with a purpose. One thing, it could be like an ancestor coming back to further do work. So it was always important for to take care of these spirits that were coming through the woman. Their stories and songs, every petroform, has their own stories and songs. And yeah, there are many stories of woman and songs and childbirth and life. And the same with the turtles and the serpents. Most likely be an area where there would be of that life coming through from the spirit world to this world. And we don't do that anymore. Sometimes the woman today carry trauma not taken care of. And so that spirit that's coming through is carrying that same trauma, and it's not taken care of. Like, we're not singing those songs anymore, and we're not nurturing that woman and that spirit that's supposed to come here and do the work. We're supposed to go back doing that. Such care when that spirit was being born into the physical world. There was a sacred fire that was burned, and the women would gather and sing the songs and help that process of that spirit coming through. It kind of makes me sad, because when we come walk around here, it just reminds me of how strong that we were as a people. We're not following those processes anymore. Some of these children, when they're born, they're taken away too. All the stories of all the petroforms, they all fit together in the story of Manidoo-Abi, which is this area, which is the area of the Whiteshell or the Canadian Shield. And it's not just Bannock Point petroforms. The petroforms go all the way to Pamachiaki. And then there's petroforms throughout the area in the forest here. So, they're important markers, these petroforms. And like I said earlier, they align with the star constellations. So what was going on in the stars is going on here on Earth, and we were to follow what is happening with the stars. So this area would be where star constellation teachings. Many of the petroforms in this area have been moved around, but yeah, we do have a turtle star constellation. That circle, the wheel there, the medicine wheel, was made by the Turtle Lodge people back in the 80s. Yeah, and so if you see, there's a fire pit for each direction. Also, they have a warrior dance there every year, and they have igniting the fire gathering every year. But they haven't since COVID. A lot of things have changed. And one of the things that I want to say about the star constellations in this area, throughout the Whiteshell, there are trails, and these trails are actually hundreds of years old, and they were made by the indigenous people. So what Parks has done is maintain those trails, and they kept them, and so, you know, they cut the grass, trim the trees, and so they have maintained them. So, but those trails are hundreds of years old. Some of them go like down south, and there were artifacts that were found in these trails of the indigenous people. And some of the artifacts I heard was pottery found all the way from South America or Mexico. So the people, you know, they've traveled and they've traded and along those trails. Because we didn't have roads, stars would be the map. They would follow the stars as a mapping. Yeah, and so they knew that where they were going. One of my favorite teachings about Grandmother Spider is that in the web of life, everything is connected. All the waterways are connected, and we are all connected. And anything that happens in the web of life on the other side of the earth does affect us. Everything that we do. And the other thing I realized too, if one person heals, then there's a ripple effect in everything that we do. There is a ripple effect in the environment and with people. And that's because everything is connected in the web of life here on earth, and, you know, and the stars, the universe, everything is connected in the web of life. And so Grandmother Spider gives that teachings, and there are many teachings of Grandmother Spider and in the web of life, and many stories and songs of Grandmother Spider. This beautiful woman here is Sky Woman Gizuguku, and many nations have stories and songs of Sky Woman, and we call her Gizuguku. And people come here and they put their offerings and tobacco, and you could see all over, there's lots of prayer ties all around here. And we have many stories of her, many variations of these stories from different nations, including the Iroquois. They have Sky Woman, and the Cree, the Aninishaabe. So for us as Anishinaabe, our teaching is that she was this star nation who came down from the sky, from the hole in the sky, and she saw these birds and animals, and so she was interested. The tree helped her to climb down, and the birds too. Some say it was the geese. And then when she came down, she landed on the turtle's shell, on top of the turtle, and she saw the animals there, and she asked them one of them if they would go to deep into the waters and gather some soil. And it was the muskrat. And there are many stories that say whether the muskrat drowned in gathering the soil. Some say that the muskrat was alive, and some say that he drowned. But anyways, the muskrat did come up with soil, and she took the soil and put it on the turtle's back. And because she wasn't human and she was of the stars, she had the powers to do something amazing. And with all the animals, they all gathered in a circle, and she asked them to dance. And they did. They did the first round dance, and they danced on the turtle's back and created, whether it be Turtle Island or the earth, on the turtle's back. I think for one thing about this area is that although it is a very spiritual place, you can feel that, it's not a place of religion, because there was an article written in the Winnipeg Tribune sometime in the 1930s where they suggested that turtles represented the good and the serpents represented the bad. But we didn't have, our teachings are not like that. Our teachings are, everything is about learning. If we make a mistake, we learn probably more. And then if something bad happens, we will learn more. We learn more from the negative or the dark things. Like I said, I was going through a dark time in my life, And so my friend said, you can't live that way. You can't live in despair. Like I was in deep despair and hopelessness. And I thought I had no purpose in life anymore. So my friend Leonard brought me here and he said, I'm going to take you to this really special place. And so this place changed my life. And this place had saved my life so many times. Like so many times when I was in deep despair and I wanted answers, I would just come here. I would actually come here and fast. And, you know, there are some days I will just come with my pipe and, you know, my children, and I would just sit here and go through whatever I'm going, and I'll come to some understanding. And then I have this realization that, hey, we've been here for thousands of years. Our ancestors put these petroforms together with the star nations, and our ancestors are star nations, and that we are people that came from the stars, that we are more. And so that would, you know, help me move through whatever I was going through. So it's not like, you know, it's not a religious place. It's not about, you know, good and evil, because there is no such thing. It's not like I wouldn't call it our church. It's where our creation story began. So it's here where we will find ourselves. You will find who you are. You will find your knowledge that you have within you. It's not me that gives you the knowledge. I just give you what I've learned from this place. I mean, this place keeps teaching me. It'll teach you and anyone else that comes here. You just walk through the area and you'll come to some understanding.